You've just received that monster RFP. It's a lot of work, and you're excited to dive in and potentially win this massive contract. You've started using AI, but how do I actually win? What is the RFP response that I need to write to win this deal? That's what takes from basic level of proposal writing to what wins. I'm Rob from AutoRFP.ai. We're an AI RFP software. I personally complete and win RFPs on the daily, and I'm keen to dive in today about using AI for an RFP response that actually helps you win RFPs. I'm going to be covering win themes. I'm going to be covering leveraging customer insights to write strategic narrative that helps you actually win RFPs. Yes, we're going to be talking about AI automation and saving time, but it's not just about that. It's not about doing an RFP as fast as possible with as little effort as possible and just putting out slop into the world. It's about writing and winning RFPs. But first, as I did say, it's about RFP automation with AI for our RFP response process, is about automating the mundane. Before you dive into how you can use AI to help you win RFPs for RFP response, take a step back and think about what are the activities I do related to RFPs that don't actively help me win RFPs. So automate the mundane. AI's real job in an RFP isn't to do what you do well and what humans do well, and that is writing strategic narrative. It is to do what it does well, and that is hunting and pecking throughout your past responses, automating kind of the basic responses, and really making sure that those are compliant. As Jasper Cooper, our CEO and co-founder at AutoRFP, put in our proposal win rate report for 2026, the real advantage isn't automating content, it's what teams do with the time they get back. So automate as much as you can on the mundane. So firstly, these are some clear things you can hand to AI from the start. The clear yes or no. Does your product or service do this? And just has a yes box or a tick box or a radio button or a drop down selection. Yes, AI should be completing those 99% of the times. Of course, having a human to review if appropriate, but that is where AI is good. The black and white. Company information, all the constant forms you get about company legal name, company enter, where the office is based, and so on. If there isn't a place to kind of put your flair there, of course, just basic information, AI is good for that. Boilerplate. Then you've got boilerplate and your security and compliance questions. Across our customer base, 63% of every AI generated answer is approved with 0 to 1 word changes. That is 63% of AI generated answers are perfect. A human still reviews them, but it doesn't require any manual editing. That's freeing up enormous time for teams using our software and the other software out in the market to then take that time back to do what wins. So what are those activities you can do to help win? First, automate the answer everyone gives and write the answer only you can give. But first, let's cover off what a great answer looks like. And I'll give you both a good and a bad example. So what does a great answer look like? And this is subjective, of course, to your industry, to your country, your buyer. It's all dependent on so many factors. My background is in technology RFPs. That's where I've spent 10 years working and selling and writing RFP responses across local government, national government, state government, as well as private enterprise RFPs in Australia, in the UK, in Europe. And it is very subjective what a great answer looks like, but I'm going to take on a couple of core principles that are going to help you think about what a great answer looks like for your use case. So leads with the verdict. I'm a big believer in front running the value of the response in the first sentence or two. What that means is effectively, if we're thinking about our humans Read, and especially if your job is to read a handful of RFP responses, it's pretty hard work to continually stay focused and read an entire response and remember everything that you read in there. You want to make sure that it's easy for the reader to understand the value in your response and tick off and give you the points that you need in that evaluation criteria. Second, mirror the buyer's words. This is where your understanding of that industry, of that country, of that buyer goes into how you talk about the response. 3, specific enough no competitor could paste it. Again, imagine you have an evaluation criteria and you are marking this RFP and you have 2 responses that look exactly the same. How are you going to differentiate? That's where being specific enough no competitor could paste it is so important to make your response stand out. Short and scannable. Now, short is dependent on the type of RFP or RFI that it may be and what they're expecting for responses. Make it scannable. Make it a pleasure to read. Don't make it giant block paragraphs that are incredibly hard, again, for that evaluator to give you the marks for that response. Make it have bullet points. Make it have flowing paragraphs. Make it have a summary or conclusion at the end, if reasonable. Make it short and concise and scannable. This is probably the biggest sin I see in executive summaries. Someone writes an executive summary, maybe it's the CEO, has the standard template one that they use, and it's all about them. It's all about your company. It's all about your experience, and it's boring to read. Make it about the buyer. Easy way to do this is scan the left margin. How often do sentences start with we, our, your company's name, and so on? How often is this talking about you? Leverage your customer insights and incorporate it into your win themes to make it about them. Tie your solution into the pain and the problems that they are living and write about them, not about you. But you're tying everything back into their world because it's just more contextual and it's easier for them to map your response to the evaluation criteria and how it meets their stated objectives and goals for the RFP. So this is what a great answer can look like. This answer is using social proof. It's one of our answers that we would write. And effectively, it's talking about a migration. So Sugar CRM migrated from Convivium to AutoRFP in 2024 and it deployed in 2 weeks. The first sentence has the value. Social proof, time. Because we're thinking about migrations. The buyer might be thinking about how long does that take? What's the risk here? How long does it take is answered in the first sentence, and social proof helps alleviate the risk. Then the next 3 dot points, again, incredibly skimmable and readable and has numbers to draw attention. So this requirement was regarding, do you have any customers who have migrated? A forgettable answer. AutoRFP.ai, so leads with me, leads with us, maintains version control automatically through the history tab. First of all, a lot of throwing commas, pretty long sentence. We've kind of cut off the response, but it keeps going. And no hook, no numbers, no so what for the buyer. And effectively, it's correct. And for a functional question in a response, it could be a great response if it was looking for a black and white response. So it's a forgettable response. So how would we improve this response? We might say auditability and traceability is core to the platform. This extends to the history tab in which, and then you might use then dot points to list out all the relevant common points there. So I'm going to give you some concrete examples of how you can use AI to incorporate win themes and customer insights to help you write winning RFP responses. First of all, the data. We did a survey of 100 winning bid teams and asked them, what do they do to win? These are teams that win more than 50% of the RFPs they bid on. 71% of high win teams use win themes, 42% of low win teams use win themes. So a clear distinction in the difference there. This is a strategic part of your RFP response. Use your intuition and your knowledge of the buyer, your knowledge of your company and your products and services to really fine tune it. But it can definitely be helpful in thinking of ideas and going back and forth and helping you, once you've generated those win themes, actually deploying the win theme across an RFP response. So the RFP, what you receive from the buyer, often will have a bunch of context about their current situation. That is gold to help you understand exactly what to incorporate. Once you have the win themes, then you go into applying win themes everywhere, try to thread these win themes consistently throughout every section, flag answers that drift, especially in the answers where it matters. I'm using my project agent here. So it's talking about differentiation, and then it has access to the web, it has access to my content library, it has access to my CRM, and it's gone through and looked at all that different information and found a bunch of different information relevant to this RFP that I'm currently working on and helped create some win themes. So win themes it's a scalable platform. Win theme number 2, reduces security and compliance risk. It's easy to use and it's integration flexibility, integrates with their entire tech stack. Maybe that is also a point of competitive differentiation. If I understand the market and the competitors really well, potentially my solution might be the only one that has a particular integration with a particular system in the buyer. So I want to highlight that fact consistently, that we have the experience of integrating their entire technology stack to our solution. And that is important because of XYZ, because of what's stated in the RFP, because the buyer has told us, or we've spoken to the buyer about it. Okay, so we've got all these different win themes. That was created via AI. And now I'm going to ask it, can you now incorporate these win themes across responses? The AI is now going to start incorporating the win themes by editing these responses for me, by searching my past content, and effectively giving me a stronger narrative of why this buyer should choose our solution. Now, it's generating those responses. I can go through, I can see the changes it made, and I can accept this or not. Oh, cool, that looks good. And then I can go through and I can look at these responses and accept and change them as well, and make sure it incorporates what I want in the responses as well. Let's try and find one here. You can see it keeps using the word configurable. So it's asserting, though, that vocabulary that ties to integration strengths of our platform. But that's just an example of how I used AI and the AutoRFP project agent to generate win themes based off the RFP project, based off my knowledge of the buyer. And then from that, we work to incorporate 4 win themes, and then I've used AI to help apply that. I would then go through and edit and make changes here if necessary. And then we've got a strategic narrative throughout that section on the functional requirements. So what are customer insights? It's not just that we know who the buyer is and we've spoken to them a couple of times, but it's actually understanding their current state. It's about understanding their pain, their problems, why they're looking to go out to a market, what has been their history of solutions, and everything we understand about that customer, about the industry, about the geography, and other relevant customers in the space to understand their world and help pitch a solution that will generally provide value to them. So where can customer insights live? First of all, in your CRM, there's a gold mine of information in your CRM. Then you've got your recorded discovery calls. This could be from systems like Gong or Clary, and effectively any calls or demonstrations or workshops that you've had with the prospect before the RFP, strategy and workshop sessions. This is really important in the world of capture, is helping shape that RFP in a subtle way. And a big way is strategy and workshop sessions, or giving updates on the state of the market and other information that helps you position the buyer to understand the world and the category that they're looking to procure their products or services in. Team interviews. So again, you might have a sales team, pre-sales team, or legal compliance. They all know incredibly well what the buyer is looking for, especially if they've spoken to the buyer or they understand the industry well. And speak to them, talk to your team, bring out internal meetings that add value and help you understand the customer and provide their knowledge into things like the strategic narrative, like the win theme for that RFP. So content is what you say and your past content, but insight is why it matters. You can say a bunch of stuff in an RFP and it can come out looking like gobbledygook and be of no value to the buyer, and you can get a really low mark and not tick off any evaluation criteria or compliance matrices, and you're going to lose. Anyone can generate an RFP with AI but insight is why it matters. And why does that matter? Again, tying back to the proposal win rate report, where we interviewed and asked winning bid teams what do they rate most highly as to why they win. Customer insights was the number one reason. And 88% of high win teams were doing customer insights, whereas only 67% of low win teams had a defined customer insights process. But again, of all the reasons why they win, the number one reason for high win teams was customer insights. So all that information we just spoke about, they're leveraging that to win competitive RFPs. In my same response, we're going to jump back into our section and we're going to ask my agent, my project agent, to look at my CRM notes. I have a couple of call transcripts in there that have been made up, and help them edit these responses based off the knowledge of that CRM. So there's my prompt. It's going to look inside HubSpot. This is the made up company, and it's going to go through and look at these notes without me having to effectively point it to it. It's going to hunt and peck, but it's all fake. And it's going to use that to help respond to my fake RFP. So here you can see it's used a bunch of tool calls via the MCP. So effectively my AI in AutoRFP is speaking to HubSpot's server and grabbing all that information and then passing that and contextualizing that for the RFP, because my AI understands the RFP because it's right there in front of it. And it's going through and it can look at all the information, and then it's pulled out a stakeholder map, all the stakeholders, and roll in the decision, what they care about, and where it sourced that information. So that's really important, especially when thinking about it's actually a person behind the marking criteria. Could be procurement, could be a decision maker. And then it's talking about the actual drivers and pain points. And you can see here, it's actually pulled out a lot of different information from those calls about what's important for this RFP. And it's then going to effectively take all that information, take my library content, so it's still sourced in reality of what my product and company can actually achieve. And it's going to take those win themes and must-win sections, and it's going to effectively craft that into a response. And now I'll ask it, cool, can you now update section B based off the context information there? Again, here's two responses where it's worked in that context to that response. And you can see that I can accept that, easily make those changes, and pretty happy with it. Those responses, that's how it would incorporate the customer insights and so on into it. And one big thing I want to call out is SME-led drafting. So the subject matter expert writing the response from a blank page is a low win habit. 94% of high win teams from our survey and our interviews, the proposal team writes, the SMEs review. So SMEs write for precision, whereas proposal teams write for persuasion. And we're talking back through the entire thing about customer insights, about win themes, about what makes a great response. We're talking about persuasive narrative and writing. And SMEs will write for the technical correct answer, which can be a good answer, but proposal teams write for a great answer that will actually win you that RFP. So don't fall into that trap. Make sure that when you have SMEs, they're just reviewing and approving information, or even better, you're sourcing that from an approved library of content that SMEs already approved, so they don't even need to approve it, but they're just reading over and approving things, but someone else is actually incorporating everything we've spoken about today into that response, and they're just approving the technicalities. One model actually that can really help speed up SME time and reduce the time as well is that AI can draft the repeatable responses, again, sourcing from approved content, and then sourcing from the context of your company, and then the SME is just going in and validating low confidence and bespoke responses. So that's how you can use AI to help raise the floor and incorporate insight, themes, and narrative into your RFP response, and really use AI to automate the mundane. Now, if you want to get a hold of the 2026 proposal win rate report that I covered throughout some of the great stats throughout today's video, you can see the link in the description below. All right, thanks. I'm Rob from AutoRFP.ai. Cheers.